The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
Irakli Garibashvili, Prime Minister of Georgia, met Yasushi Kinoshita, Chairman of Development Bank of Japan Incorporated. Dignitaries reviewed the support mechanisms of the private and public sectors of Georgia and defined prospects of future cooperation. Special importance of an agreement concluded by and between Georgia and Japan on liberalization, promotion and protection of investments was noted at the meeting. According to the Prime Minister of Georgia, bilateral investment agreement between the two nations and development of a legal basis in the field will have a positive impact on the advancement of the investment climate in the country and will facilitate the entry of new investors. Discussion points included pro-business environment existing in Georgia, positive indicators of economic recovery in Georgia within the post-pandemic period. It was noted that Georgia has free trade agreements with the EU, China and countries of the region, thus making Georgia fit for gaining welcomed access to a number of huge consumer markets. The head of government of Georgia invited a delegation from the Development Bank of Japan Incorporated to the country to gain first-hand knowledge and experience about the favorable business environment in Georgia. As part of his visit to Davos, PM Garibashvili also met with Ebru Özdemir, chairwoman of Turkish Limak Holding. The head of government informed the Limak Holding's chairwoman of Georgia's favorable business environment and invited her to Georgia to get acquainted with the country's investment environment. The conversation touched upon FTAs, including with the EU, China and other countries in the region, as a way of offering Georgia free access to numerous large markets. The meeting underlined Georgia's role as the region's transit hub and prospects toward that end. Irakli Garibashvili pointed out that thanks to the Georgian government's correct policy, the country's economy is rapidly recovering in the post-pandemic period. The activities of Limak Group involve construction, tourism, infrastructure, aviation, food industry and energy. The company is a major contributor to the growth and promotion of the Turkish economy. Georgia's favorable investment environment and the strategy for transforming Georgia into multifunctional regional hub were the key topics of the meeting between Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili and Jay Collins, Citibank's Vice Chairman of Banking, Capital Markets and Advisory. According to the head of government, the government of Georgia is working on Georgia's transformation into a multifunctional regional hub with a draft strategy already in place. The meeting emphasized rankings from numerous influential think tanks testifying to Georgia's favorable investment environment. Irakli Garibashvili pointed out that the banking and financial services industry is one of the leading sectors in Georgia, with the country's two largest banks present on London Stock Exchange's premium listing. Georgia is consistent in implementing reforms toward integrating into European and Euro-Atlantic structures and for ensuring a predictable investment climate, Prime Minister said. The head of government singled out Georgia as a reliable and stable business partner, also inviting Citibank's delegation to Georgia to familiarize themselves with the country's investment environment. Citibank is a major American bank with branches in 19 countries, including in the US, Mexico, the UK, India, Hungary, Poland, and Ireland. In 2021, the bank's income made up almost 72 billion USD. At the World Economic Forum, Georgia's Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili also appeared on a panel discussion on the future of the connection between the EU and Eastern neighbors, moderated by the New York Times. Here are the main accents from the PM's speech and accompanying Q&A.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting us. This is a great opportunity to talk about Georgia's aspiration to become a member of the European Union. It's actually a great opportunity because of COVID. We didn't have a chance to meet in person, so this is a great opportunity once again. Thank you for this. Well, second, I want to say that, of course, Georgia has been a very reliable and loyal partner to the European Union. This is a choice of our people. It does not belong only to the Georgian government, but this is a choice, I would say this is a civilizational choice of the Georgian people. And we've been very loyal, we've been a dedicated partner to the European Union because we share the same values, same principles. In 2014, you know that we signed the association agreement. This is the main document. This is a roadmap for our ultimate goal, which is the full-fledged EU membership. Since then, of course, we have a free trade agreement. We have some tangible results, such as the visa-free regime, which is also very important to the Georgian citizens. And of course, just recently, we submitted the application for the EU membership. To respond to your question, I would say whatever brings us closer to the European Union and to the EU membership is, of course, acceptable for us. Because we have no other alternative. As I said, this is the choice of Georgian people, and we will do whatever we can. We will do the maximum in order to get closer to the European Union, to get closer to the ultimate goal, which is the full-fledged membership of the European Union.
Prime Minister, let's talk a little bit about the actual steps your country would need to take if it got candidate status, because that's actually when the difficult work begins, and it's not always going to make the leader very popular. The reforms can be very burdensome. So what would you see as top priorities for Georgia, and also what kind of support would you be expecting for your country in this context?
Well, first of all, I think we should take into consideration the expectations of the people. I want to talk about Georgia, and I want to talk about Georgian people. More than 80% of our population support this idea that Georgia must become a member of the European family. And this is not a choice, again, I want to repeat, of our government. We have been striving, we have been trying to get closer to the European Union for centuries. We didn't start it in 2014 when we signed the association agreement. Instead, we've been trying to become a member of the civilized, Europe and world for centuries, as I said. So now we need to manage the expectations of our people. Because from our perspective, how we see this process, because we believe that we've been, as I said, we are very loyal to the European values, principles. We're doing democratic reforms. We're doing all necessary things that is into the association agreement. We have fulfilled 45%, more than 45% of the association agreement has already been fulfilled. We have embarked on a very ambitious reforms agenda since 2014. We've been doing lots of improvements in every direction, whether this is rule of law, judicial reforms, open government, or in every direction we have huge progress. We have tangible progress, and people see it. So now the question is whether we raise this expectation, we tell our people that Georgia will get this, as it was said, symbolic, let's say, political, let's say, declaration, an acknowledgement that Georgia is part of this European family, or we should explain to them that it's not the right time, maybe we should consider it later, or we need to see action now and today, because as it was mentioned, it's a different world today. What has happened in Ukraine, it's not a challenge to only Ukrainian security. This is a challenge to the entire European security architecture. And I want to remind you about the war that we had in 2008. At that time, I have to mention, regrettably, that we did not see such unity that is today. We welcome this unity. This is great. This is a very strong, let's say, reaction of the entire world, of the civilized world. But we, the Georgians, we paid a very high price since we regained our independence. We had two wars in the 90s when we regained our independence, one in Abkhazia, in Ossetia, and 2008, a large-scale war with Russia. And the result of this war is temporary occupation of our territories, of our historic territories. Now, we understand the concern that exists in the European Union, because as Minister mentioned, they don't want to import all these problems, let's say, into the European family. But we also understand that, granting the candidate status does not mean giving the membership, right? It's still a long process, as it was mentioned by the president of Estonia. It's a long process. We understand that. And we have our homework, which is the association agreement. So that's my point. But we need clarity, and we need adequate and relevant reaction from the European Union.
I'd like to thank everyone for being in the room. I'd like to thank you for your honesty and the passion with which you've spoken today on behalf of your people. Thanks so much for what I think was a nuanced debate and a really important moment for the future of the Eastern Partnership and, of course, for the future of the European Union. Please, Prime Minister.
In closure, I also want to quote a famous Georgian scientist and co-author of the European Constitution, Mr. Michel Muscali. He said, Georgia knows that it belongs to Europe. Now Europe should make conclusions. That's my last comment.
That's an apt conclusion. Thank you so much.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.